Hello, Pursuit Christian Church. This is Pastor Justin here with another episode of Shelf Worthy. I'm sorry that I haven't done it the past couple weeks. I was on vacation, had some stuff going on, but this is not a week you're going to want to miss. This is one of the greatest books I've ever read. I read it actually this year, and it has completely transformed my prayer life. And it is Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools by Tyler Staton. I was just so impressed with this book. It was so convicting, so transformative. And the only way I could figure out how to give you an idea of what this book is trying to convey about the importance and the power of prayer is by sharing with you 3 stories that are present in the book. And the first one is actually a story about the author's brother-in-law. Tyler was in a meeting with other pastors all the way across the country when he gets a phone call that his brother-in-law was actually in urgent care. He thought he just had some heartburn, but he had actually had a tear in his aorta that was gushing blood and was close to death. It was so bad they didn't even think that they would be able to get him to the hospital to be able to stabilize him. 48 hours later at Vanderbilt Hospital, they come and tell the family that they need to come and say their goodbyes because he's going to pass away. Like, this is it. There's nothing they can really do. He had to end up undergoing multiple open heart surgeries, so extensive that he was significantly more likely that the surgery would kill him than be able to save him. And during the surgery, 5 hours goes by and the surgeon is unable to find the tear, to be able to repair it. They declare him legally dead. And then, a young nursing student whose only job was to bring the scissors begins to pray. And immediately after this prayer, the surgeon finds the tear. Now again, this surgery was so extensive that he was in fact the only patient in history, as far as they knew, to ever recover and survive it. So this surgeon, who is not a believer, who was a complete atheist, came to the family with tears in his eyes and delivered the news that he had no other way to describe it besides it was a miracle. It was a miracle. And so Tyler writes in the book, yes, prayer stills us. It brings us peace. It helps us come to terms with what is, and prayer changes us from the person praying from the inside out. But prayer also releases power. And that prayer releases power to affect real change in the tangible world. Prayer changes everything. A different story he tells is about Dwight Moody, the well-known famous evangelist who he carried around a piece of paper with 100 different names of people who did not know Jesus, friends and strangers that he had encountered in his journey that didn't have a relationship with God. And he would secretly pray for them every single day that God would reveal himself so that they may have faith in a relationship with Jesus. Now, by the time he died, 96 out of those 100 people had come to faith. 96. There were only 4 people who had still not yet come to know Jesus. And they all came to his funeral independently of each other. And they were all so moved by the service that they independently all came to faith that day. 100 out of 100 of the people he prayed for came to know Jesus Christ because prayer changes things. Prayer matters. Finally, the story that kind of shaped everything to begin with, one of the core stories that shaped the writing of this book was the story of the Moravians, a group of Christians many years ago who in August 13th, 1727, they gathered for an ordinary church service, no different. And the pastor preached such a powerful sermon on the cross that the Holy Spirit fell in such an overwhelming way that in that moment, in that very meeting room, they began to confess their wrongs and forgive one another. And the Spirit fell so heavily that they stayed in that room for hours, captivated by prayer and confession, that they stumbled out of there like drunks out of a pub at the last call. And from that moment on, the Moravians devoted themselves to 24/7 prayer. Every day for over 100 years, a Moravian would pick a time of day and pray. so that there was not ever a moment, a second, that there was not a Moravian praying in the world. And that started the Moravian revival of 100 years of prayer. And so we're going to do something like that here. I was so captivated by this story. Tyler was so captivated by this story that he is now the national director of the 24/7 prayer movement in the United States. And if you didn't know it, starting in September on the 6th is the 24/7, 7 days of prayer, to that God would move and work in our country and in our world and in our community. And so we are going to put our prayer room up. We're going to select to be one of the prayer rooms that is going to practice this. And I pray that for our church, we can devote ourselves so much to prayer that we will have someone in that prayer room for every second and every hour of one day. And that prayer room will be so baked in prayer that this will be the defining moment that something changed to Pursuit Christian Church. And so I can't wait to tell you more about what this is going to look like and how you can participate. But until next time, this has been Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools, Shelf Worthy. I'll see you next time.